Yay! Wow, that was fast, Viv. I think that was our fastest going live thing ever.
That nearly caught us off guard, Susie.
Totally. We were both waiting, and then, because normally it takes forever, and then it's, ooh, okay, we're live. Okay, everybody, hello, welcome.
No time for a quick 40 winks between hitting live and then being actual live. Hello, everybody out there in Talk to the Animals land. How you be today? How's Susie?
I am wonderful, thank you. How about you, Viv?
I'm a little bit sleepy, but I'm awesome. I think I'm actually dangerously awesome today.
Ooh, what does that mean?
So look out, world.
Exactly.
Yeah. So our topic for today?
Are you giving your pets mixed messages?
So, yeah, how often do you, I don't know, you see other people getting frustrated with the animal, with their animals, or you're getting frustrated with your animals, or your relationships with people. But I didn't say that out loud.
No. Shh.
Because we think we're saying and communicating one thing when in actual fact something's being really mixed and twisted and misapplied midair and creating a totally different result to the one that you think that you're asking for. So how does that create problems in your relationships, do you think? And do we just keep thinking we're doing the same thing and getting more and more frustrated and going around that same loop, getting angrier and more frustrated and blaming and judging and getting cranky and separating them? Then what does that create? More of what you want or less of what you want?
Yeah.
Correct.
No,
less.
that's exactly. That's actually a great, I'm so glad you said that because I think that's really how I used to live all the time, thinking that repeat will create something different. No, it doesn't actually. So, yeah. And with the animals too, or actually a great example that Gary always gives, Gary, the founder of Access Consciousness, he says that sometimes when people feel like they're not getting their point across, they just talk louder, as if that is going to change it, like, you didn't hear me, right? No, I actually heard you, but it still didn't really arrive. I think a lot of it is so often we don't really even know exactly what it is that we desire. I notice that more and more now when I'm playing with the horses. My horses are here, and so now I get to play with them every day, and it's such a different energy than dogs. With dogs it's just different because they're predators, and cats, and it's a different relationship we have with horses. First of all, they're big, so they can be intimidating. They can come towards you, and I mean, if a horse comes towards you with their ears pinned back and baring their teeth, you're like, maybe I should step out of the way, or like, I mean, they are intimidating, and so that, and so you approach them a slight bit different as well. But then it's also this whole predator prey animal relationship that you have to also factor in. And it's really so different, and when I go there and I have mixed ideas even of what I desire to do, um they they kind of go, what? Like the other day, I had the intention to go in there, halter the baby, so the 2-year-old, halter her, and then take them both out or work with the baby or do something. So I walked into the pen, I had the halter in my hand, and then I was standing there, and they were both standing there. But my mare was a bit more closer to me, and she was really soft in the eye. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll just halter her and like do something with her first. And the moment I stepped towards her, she went like, and she walked away really fast. And I was like, oh, that was interesting. And then I turned over, and the baby was still standing there, and I could just halter her up. And I was like, okay. I changed my idea midstream and it didn't really arrive at the horses very well. It was like, the baby was still like, hey, wait, you said you were gonna alter me, so here I am. What are you doing? You silly
Mm,
twat.
mm, mm. Yeah, and it's how often do we do that as well? And like you were saying, Susie, if we're not really clear about what we're asking for or what we would like to have as an outcome without being attached to it as well, because this is the thing with especially a horse, you go in, some people go in with a very fixed, solid idea. They've just watched a video or they've just read something or learned something. It's like, I'm going to do this. It's like, there's no, I think a lot of the times there's no actual point of connection first before the request is made, and
Mhm.
that's, imagine going out to dinner with somebody and they're just, I don't know, not a good example, but just trying to get in your pants, they're just going straight to some kind of action that you don't desire, where there's been actually no connection. You haven't actually taken that moment to connect, be present with them, sense where they're at, sense where you're at. And this doesn't have to be a lengthy process, but it's just checking yourself before you
Mhm.
actually ask your animal for anything. Because if there's anything going on in the back of your mind, if you're distracted with something that's gone on in the family or with finances, and you're going to, ask an animal again, especially a horse, we're kind of bringing all of that with us when we're thinking, right, I'm going to go and work the horse, I'm going to take the dog for a walk. And oftentimes we don't have that depth of awareness when we're actually engaging with what we're asking for. So of course, in here, we're completely distracted. Our energy is all over the place. We're sending out a million different energies all at once. And like you say, Susie, if you're with in this predator prey situation, that energy is read in a very different language than, oh, look, I'm just stressed and I'm just a bit cranky. If I was having a conversation with my partner, look, I'm really stressed at the moment, just give me some space. If I'm a bit reactive, it's not you. We'll go, oh, okay. But with a horse or with another animal that's like that, they're going, oh my God, there's something really erratic going on with this person's energy. And remembering that animals function from energy, they read energy, it's their language, they learn our cues, but their primary language is energy. So,
Mhm.
working with horses is such a great workout for you to become really aware of the energy that you're being and projecting
Yeah.
24/7, because they'll react to it immediately.
Yeah. And then too, when you have an agenda, or you're not paying attention, I think this is a really good example what you just said, with like that whole part of taking a moment to connect and really have a sense of what's actually going on also for the animal, because we can't
Mm,
assume that they are always having a good day either. They might be cranky, they might be having something going on with their body. We can't assume that we are always meeting them the same way that we met them the day before or even an hour earlier. And again, with my mare, so the guy who wants to actually have the baby was there with his kids, and they were trying to approach the baby, and the baby got really overwhelmed. And I saw her have a behavior I had never seen before, and she actually started to go towards the kids, and she was pinning her ears, and she was trying to bite them. And I was like, whoa, okay. That's interesting. I had never seen her do that, even though, I had moments with her that were quite intense. When the first time I haltered her, she fought with the halter, and I had a pretty long lead line in my hand, but she fought with me and she was really aggravated and hated this whole thing. And it took her a few minutes to or probably 60 seconds, but it felt like an eternity
yeah.
to settle down. But not once did she pin her ears, come towards me, or offer me her back end and try to kick me. I mean, I was totally calm, and I was just there and holding the lead line. And I was like, hey, I'm just going to hold on to this until you relax. And then I give you your head back. But she never once gave me an indication of like, I'm going to come after you now. So that was very interesting to me. And I realized that we didn't really introduce the situation. We didn't really take our time to see how the horses would respond to all these little people. There were 4 kids, and to my knowledge, they might have never really seen kids before. I'm not sure, but so again, like just not taking the time to actually check in, hey, how is this for you? Yes, there's a lot of people, but then also little people, so totally different scenario. But anyway, so yeah.
And you having that awareness too, Susie, it's like, we're learning, we're in a learning situation. There isn't this expectation of being perfect, or because for any of you that have worked with animals, it's like, the old saying in movies is never work with kids and animals, because they're just so present and in the moment and unpredictable. They're not restrained and controlled, and they're these free spirits up until a certain point. And so they are very they're fantastic in regards to showing us, what we're doing, what we're being, whether we're congruent with what we're asking for, whether we're actually clear, really clear with what we're asking for, and again, with no expectation. And I think that's a trick, because most of us want to achieve something or accomplish something, and whether it's with a dog or a horse or another animal, it's like we have this. From the talk to the animal's point of view, we have the request, we have the question, we ask, we're present, but then we're also not attached to what the animal is. They need to have space to understand and process and begin to get clear about what you're asking for. Because sometimes, I know when I had my very first puppy, I laugh at myself now with kindness as to expecting this dog to sit, after its first puppy training. It's like, well, why aren't you sitting? It must be me. I'm doing something wrong. So, I'm putting pressure down on a bum to sit her down, but I could feel myself getting frustrated. And it's like, Viv, she's 10 weeks old. She's been to one puppy training class. She's been a puppy up until now. She's learning, and so I had to really take the accelerator off me, wanting everything to happen quicker, faster yesterday. Because I like to function at the speed of space, and I cotton onto things really quickly. So it's like I had to look at the expectation I had and what I was projecting at her, which was, if I'd continued that, it would not have been a fun relationship. She would have been able to just be her and find her own way, learning, oh, this is what you want me to do. Oh, you want me to lay down. Oh, you want me to stay. Okay. But if I had these projections and expectations that I was literally forcing into her world with this intense pressure of, right, come on, we've got to get it right, and I've got to have the dog doing this by the end of today. It's like, that's not realistic. I had to just really literally step right back and really have a good look at myself and go, okay, how would I like this relationship to be for the rest of my life with this dog? Because what I'm being with her right now is setting up that foundation for our relationship. And if I'm pushing and shoving and expecting and bullying, basically, and forcing her to do what I want her to do, what I wanted her to do, I don't think I would have had the joy in my relationship with her. So, it's a very humbling journey when you're working with animals. If you're willing to have this, if a relationship is something that you really desire to have a bond with these animals, where, like you're saying, Susie, they trust you. They may get a bit freaked out to start with, but what we be can be that leader where they can relax. They can look to us if they're uncertain, or they can look to us for some kind of information or guidance in those moments. Those moments that we have with them they're all building that relationship. So, to me, I had to get off being really hard with myself and get off judging myself, because it's like, Viv, you've never trained a dog before. You've never had a puppy before. Relax. Go and learn from somebody. Go and talk to someone, and it just totally changed the whole trajectory of my relationship with that dog.
Yeah. And like, one thing you said here too is so, I think it's such a pivotal piece, is to really not hold on to your expectations or to your judgments of yourself in that moment, and really being willing to step back and take a breath and kind of go, okay, obviously this isn't working now. Not what am I doing wrong? What is the animal doing wrong? What's wrong? But what about, okay, what change do I need to apply right now? Which direction do I go here? This is obviously not working. I'm not really giving the cue in a way that is understandable. Okay, cool. So what do I need to change here? And I think this is the part where you have to be willing to just play, but also know that you're not going to ruin your animal by playing with it in a way that may not be creating the result. You're not going to ruin them unless you do the same thing over and over and over and over, where they then become, let's say, for example, they can become the word is sort of escaping me, but they can brace themselves against something, right? So they start to have an expectation. So let's say you want to train your dog to do something, or your horse, and you keep approaching it, and you're not creating that. It's not going forward. Don't keep trying that over and over and over in a way. See if you can come at it from a different direction. And like Viv was saying, maybe call someone, or my God, today YouTube is amazing resource. Like, just watch some videos, see how other people do it, and then see, does that actually resonate with my energy and with how I would like to do this? Because it has to work for you too. This is not about doing someone else's method. That never works, because every method has an energy. And even the people that are trying to make methods out of what they naturally do, it's a very interesting way oftentimes to watch that, because it's not a method. They're being an energy, and now they're trying to explain that to you, but they're actually different with each and every animal, because each and every animal is different. A cookie cutter method is not going to work on each and every animal. And I think that's also important. We have to be willing to really know, hey, where are we at, all of us? What's going on here? And go from there, and really be willing to take a step back and have a look. Hey, what am I doing? What is, all of that. So yeah.
I know. I was called to a horse. Oh, it was a number of years ago now, and this horse was just really sour. It was standing in the corner of the field with its head down, and I mean, it had everything it wanted. It was fed really well, had the perfect, environment, from the owner's point of view. And she said, I don't know what's up with my horse. And so I started talking to her. Anyway, she learned this particular method, which is a great method with horses. But she had overdone it. This horse had turned into this completely sour, just resentful kind of, it was just going through the motions. It was like there was no being left in there. It's like, you do this, I do this, like a circus animal. And the joy had been totally taken from this animal. And
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, because how often do people do this with their animals? Like, over and over the same thing, right? They already know it to a T, and now they're doing it over and over. Sorry, I just had to jump in here, because I had to laugh. Because can you imagine somebody is showing you every day how to get dressed and undressed, like every day? Where would you be at after a week of that? Like, would you punch them? Would you kill them? Would you kick them out of your house? Would you hang them? Would you, whatever? I'm just saying, like, we sometimes think that with animals we can do that, but we would never, ever, ever, ever do that with a person. I mean, you explain something once. If they didn't get it, they might ask you a question. You might explain it again. And then once they know it, yes, of course, you will tell your dog to sit, but you don't have to train them anymore to sit once they know what sit is. Play with them, do some other stuff. Yeah, occasionally you can still make them sit, but you don't have to keep reinforcing that. I think that's one of those ideas that is such a strange point of view, and sorry, Viv, for interrupting. I just, that is just so frustrating, to hear that. And so what did you do? How did you change it? Like, were you able to?
I mean, using the tools of Access Consciousness and Talk to the Animals, I thought, can she actually hear anything different? Does she truly want to hear what I have to say or do something different. And it was like, no, her whole life. And then she took me up to the house, and I looked around the house, and I got to know this woman a little bit. And it's like, I don't want to be around this woman. She is no fun. Everything is so micromanaged and controlled, and nothing is out of place, you know. And I just, she couldn't hear anything, you know. And I had a quick chat to the horse and said, look, I get what's going on. And she's like, why don't you do this? You can see how good he is. And my heart felt like it was breaking for this horse, because he wasn't connected. He wasn't with me. He was just doing the motions.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I talked to him and said, look, you know, I'm really sorry, but I don't know if I can do anything in this situation. I can contribute to you and your body, because he was really stiff and locked up and in a lot of pain. And she was grumpy because she couldn't ride him and compete him.
Wow.
You know, I said, have you created this as a way of getting out of the competition and being ridden? He said, yes. And I said, well, do you want to change it? He said, no. He said, I don't want you anywhere near me. And she was still forcing groundwork on this horse, even though he was in pain, because she couldn't cope with, you know, her image or whatever it was being damaged because she had a horse that couldn't be ridden, you know.
Wow.
So they're incredible with what they do to facilitate us. So I don't know whether this horse is probably about 15 or 16 at this stage, which is not old, you know. He was in great condition, but it was so mind-blowing for me to hear him say, I don't want to change this, because if I do, then I'm going to have to go and do what she wants me to do, and I don't want to do that. So this is what I've chosen.
Yeah,
like,
interesting.
wow. You know, so she wasn't present with the horse. She wasn't receiving the animal as a being. It was a doing. It was a machine to her. It was a
slave.
To win, to compete. So, you know, and that was the result. She turned this horse really, really sour. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Sometimes really interesting. And, you know, this is not to say that, guys, please, you know, as long as you stay present with your animal, you can literally do anything with them. As long as you get the sense that they're having fun with you, even if it's repetitive work, please don't go into conclusion that any repetition is bad. I just made that comment because we sometimes overdo it. You know, we sometimes go too far. And keep a sense of like, is it still fun for your animal? And, you know, some animals are super, super smart. And so if you're trying to control a super smart animal with training, they may not like that. They may need a bit more challenging things to do. And just look at that. You know, if you see your animal starting to be responsive to you in a way where you're like, oh, this feels like it's not fun anymore, then have a look at what could be fun. Yeah.
I was really grateful because Mia, the dog I was talking about earlier, when she was a puppy, there was a local training school, and the guy that was doing the dog training was an ex-police dog handler. And I was like, oh, okay, what's this going to be like? Is it going to be really military and regimented? Anyway, we went there, and it turned out my dog had a joint problem. So she ended up not really being able to sit, which was funny considering I was losing my, you know, temper with her. Not temper, but I was losing it because she wouldn't sit. But he said, look, please just get her to drop. If it's uncomfortable for her to sit and put weight on that joint, just ask her to drop. So when all the other dogs are sitting, just ask her to drop. That's much more comfortable for her body. And she'll do it really quickly. She's not fighting you or not listening to you. It's that it's uncomfortable. And she's trying to find a way to work with you. And he said, please do not take the joy out of this dog. She's such a happy dog. And he said, if you keep doing this over and over and trying to he said, you'll lose the personality, you'll lose the joy and the lightness of this dog. And I was so grateful for him for saying that, because it's like, well, what's more important for me? Having a dog that's happy and can express itself, you know, and be a bit of a goofball every now and then? Or do I want, like the horse, do I want a dog that's really just, you know, shut down and withdrawn and just at the effect of what I was projecting? So I am eternally grateful for him saying that, because I hadn't thought that he would say something like that, you know. Police dog. So that was my expectation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. And we
And
do actually have a question about co-parenting, which I think is really cool because co-parenting is, basically the question is, do we have to be consistent across the board? Do we have to do the same thing? And I have to say, like, I learned so much being a dog walker way back when, because I was doing things my way and the people that owned these dogs were doing things their way. And I found out so often that these dogs were doing things with me they were not doing with their parents and vice versa. So they are smart. They know what you're asking for. They know what they can get away with you. They also know what another person is asking for, which could be completely the opposite of what you're asking for. They still know that. And they also know what they can get away with that person, and also what they cannot get away with, and animals, they do know that too. So they are really smart in that way, and they can adapt to that. So it's not about that. And it's interesting because when I first really looked into all this training stuff, consistency was one of the things most people are really adamant about. What I'm getting, though, is it's not actually the motions that you're going through, but if you desire to co-parent and there are some things in the household that you would like to be quote unquote consistent, it's more that you have to be energetically congruent. And then how you express that doesn't matter. But if one of you is sort of okay with the dog sitting there by the table and begging, and keeps giving them food while you're not watching, and you are really adamant about this not being okay, then energetically now there can be something that creates a lot of tension, not only between you and the other person, but also you and the animal, because the animal knows that it can get away with getting the food from that one person. But now, if you're trying to make this into something where the other person pulls along with you, but they're actually not on the same page, this is going to get really confusing for the animal, because they're perceiving the energy that the person has, which is, hey, I want to feed you. And then the other person, that's very clear. Nope, that's not happening. But now the dog will still sit there, and now the person that would normally feed will go away, because they are now trying to acquiesce with the other person's point of view, but in essence, they still want to feed the dog. That's when it gets really complicated, So to be really honest with yourself, is that something that I would like to change and do or not? And then I think that discussion has to be with your co-person, that you're co-parenting with. For example, my dog Charlie, I travel a lot, and so he was with these house sitters, and they were feeding him off the table, and I said, can you please stop? Because I sometimes put a service vest on him, and he can't be doing that. That cannot be a thing that he does. And so it was an interesting conversation, because they didn't really like that, and so hence they got their own dog and weren't house sitting for me anymore, which is fine. But and that was not really the only reason by any means, but I'm just saying it was a very interesting thing. And that's maybe why I brought this up, because these are the kind of things that might be going on in a household where one person desires something and the other doesn't. So you have to figure out first how you guys are going to work on that, and then involve the dog. So, or the animal, whatever animal you're working with, really.
Another awesome conversation, Susie.
Yay. Coolio. Well, are we done, Viv?
I think we might be. That was
nothing else to say to that. You
well,
co-parenting.
I've got lots more to say, but yeah, look, and if people watching are interested, because this is a different, when you're working with energy, it can be a very different muscle to build. This is new to you. So if you'd like to know more, go to talktotheanimals.com. Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, wrote a great book called Talk to the Animals, that it is packed with tools and information and body processes that you can run on your animals. And it just opens a very different doorway to the relationship that you probably have always known is possible, but may not have. And it is a works in progress. It's like raising children, you know, you never get to the destination. Every day is a different day. So, but you know, what Susie and I aim to do is create greater ease and more clarity and give you possibilities and tools to be able to change something that isn't working. So stay tuned. We will be on next week, and have a great time with your animals and your people in the next week until we see you again.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Susie.